What's up, guys? My name is Rob Epifania. I'm a USPSA Grandmaster, and I'm the owner of Systematic Performance Concepts. Today, we are here cleaning guns, and I'm going to give you some of my tips for success. So the idea behind this video is to give you guys some quick tips that usually help me when I'm cleaning guns. We have a brand new gun. Most people don't typically clean these, but what I usually do is I give these a quick cleaning before I take it out to the range, just to make sure we get any of the assembly grease and assembly lube off the gun, and just to put our own kind of lube on the gun when we're cleaning or when we're about to shoot. So first thing we do with this gun, this is my buddy's gun. He wanted me to get it all prepped, ready for him to start shooting. First thing we do is make sure we check to make sure that the gun is unloaded here, right? Visually and physically make sure the gun is unloaded, make sure there's no mag in there, no round in the chamber, right? With the Glocks, we have to press the trigger to take it down, and we have these takedown pins here that have to be pulled down. So what we do is we press the trigger, right? And they tell you in the Glock manual, they tell you 1/10 of an inch back. So you kind of guesstimate that. You guys can see right here, that's about how much that is. I pull these two takedown levers down, hold them down, and I could push the slide right off. Okay, so we have our typical Glock components, our recoil spring assembly. We have our barrel that sits within the slide, and we have our frame. Right, most of the time, for me personally, some people say you clean every time you shoot the gun. I personally don't. I shoot a high volume of rounds. So what I typically do is I maintain the gun between shooting, and then I clean it maybe once a month, maybe once every 2 months. For a match gun, I will clean it before every big match that's coming up, just to make sure that it's ready and in condition to perform. So we have the Glock apart here. Quick and dirty rule of thumb when it comes to cleaning guns: if you see shiny spots on any of the components, typically speaking, that means that there's metal to metal contact occurring, and that's a good place to look into to clean and or lube, right? Since this gun is brand new, we're not really concerned with that. Everything looks very shiny here. The only thing that I'm concerned about is giving it a quick wipe down. So good thing to have is microfiber towels, right? All I'm going to do is going to wipe down the surfaces just real crudely, just to make sure we get anything off the gun before we apply any sort of lube to it. Right, everything is real clean here. You can see that this gun has not been shot just yet. Also, guys, if you have any questions about how to disassemble your gun, YouTube is a great resource, but you also have your owner's manual if you have it with the gun. It's going to tell you how to break everything down, the lube points and everything else that you need to know about servicing the firearm. Okay, so I gave this quick wipe down. What I do like to do with the barrel is I do like to run a pass of a bore snake through at least once, just to get some lube inside the gun, inside the barrel. What I typically use for that, so in this case, I use just a general CLP. Bore snakes in general, they have the first part of the bore snake that I usually put some solvent on, just to get the lube down the barrel. It then has a copper or brass brush section that's going to scrub any sort of grime or gunk out, and then it has a drying section. So what I do here is I typically just take my solvent, whatever it is. In this case, it happens to be Lucas Extreme Duty CLP. Smells like grape, which is kind of nice. And run the weight through and just pass this through the barrel once, maybe twice. This just gets a nice coating inside the barrel, so we don't have any potential rust or anything like that happen. Right, typically speaking, everything else is pretty clean here. We gave it a quick wipe down, make sure everything is removed from some of the other stuff. And now it's time to put it back together and lube it up. So what I typically use, so I've been using this for about 1.5 years now. This is gun butter. I find that this lube tends to work the best for me. What I noticed is it has very good cold weather performance, which is important for me in our cold winters. At the range I shoot at, there's a lot of sand. It has good sand and dust resistance. It does stay in place very well. So we have this fine needle applicator that works really, really well. When you put lubrication into place, it stays put, right? It doesn't go anywhere crazy. Even if you move it up and down, it doesn't move that fast. And it also cycles the gun a bit quicker. I noticed the gun cycles quicker. It doesn't have as many issues as the gun gets dirtier. The gun cycles better and for longer, right? So when it comes to this, I'm just going to lube up some of the points that I would typically do. So I go within the slide rails here where it contacts the frame. I tend to do this. This tends to get ridden hard by rounds and whatever else is rubbing against it. So it gets shiny. So I do put one here. We could put a little bit on the firing pin block right here. And that's usually pretty good for the slide. For the barrel, typically speaking, and especially in the Glock manual, they basically say to put like a couple drops along the barrel. So that's kind of what I do here. I also put a drop or two, or just a small line along the barrel hood, because I find that as that wears, you see it start to get pretty shiny. And that usually is pretty good for the barrel. Recoil spring assembly here. This is a captured recoil spring assembly. I don't really do much with this typically, so this will just go in as is. So we have here, the plug end goes in the front, push forward, and then we hit the back end over there, right? As far as the frame itself goes, we have, these are the rails that it rides on. All right, so I just put a drop of gun butter on there. And then there's one more spot, if I remember correctly in the manual, and it's right in this area here that they tell that's going to make some contact, metal on metal contact, and they recommend putting a drop of oil in there. All right, so this is pretty quick. This doesn't take long to do. This is just getting a gun ready for its first shooting. All right, put the slide back on, rack it a few times, right? Make sure everything works properly. Trigger goes off, right? If I rack the slide, the trigger resets. In this case, there's no manual safety, but I would check that too if that were the case. And that's the Glock. That's getting a first gun ready for your first shooting.